Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining the Society of Thoracic Surgeons Congenital Heart Surgery Database monthly webinar. Today is Tuesday, May 18th. I hope you guys are all having a great week. On the call with me today from STS, we have myself, we have Catherine Holyfield, Addie Dolan, we have Emily Conrad. I think that's it from the STS side today. We have Dr. Meyer and Dr. Jacobs joining us from the surgeon leaders. So thank you all for joining today from the IQVIA team. We have Jean, Joe, we have Michelle. I think that's it from the IQVIA side. And Melanie, can't forget Melanie. And we have from our core group, we have Chastity, we have Janet, and I think Leslie is going to join when she's able. So thank you everyone for joining today. I appreciate all of your assistance. So in terms of our agenda for today's webinar, I'll provide a brief STS update, and then I'm going to turn things over to Chastity for some tips on coding complications. We had quite a few questions come in from our for our core group call this month regarding complications. So Chastity is just going to go over a couple of tips in that aspect, and then we'll turn things over to our IQVIA team for their update, and then we'll turn things over to you all for our Q&A. Just a friendly reminder to please submit your questions via the Q&A function. I believe we also do have the raise hand function turned on, so if you need to clarify any of your questions, or if you'd like to just raise your hand and ask a question or speak, just please feel free to do that. Just be sure your microphone is enabled, and we'll get your questions answered. So let's go ahead and get started. Not much has changed since our last call. This slide, not too many updates. Again, our spring 2021 harvest obviously is still undergoing. We have not determined the harvest close date, and just please continue to use the open submission and cleaning your data. As we talked about last time, participants will be given ample time prior to establishing the harvest close date. And again, just a reminder that this spring 2021 harvest, the reporting period would include procedures up through 12/31/2020. The 2020 harvest analysis update, we are expecting that data to be released to you all in the summer of 2021, around the July timeframe. Know that the dashboards will be beta tested prior to releasing that data, and you all will be notified once that data is available within the platform. Also, our 2021 congenital audit is underway. Selected sites, if you were lucky enough, you should have been notified. You were notified by the STS on May the 11th. So if you did not get a notification from STS by May 11th, you were not one of the chosen ones. So, but again, all of our selected sites were notified on May 11th. CRS auditor instructions would have followed. So if you were notified by STS on the 11th and you have not received any additional follow-up notification from CRS, please reach out to us and let us know. So all sites, again, should have received the follow-up instructions from CRS for your audit. For anyone that is interested in the audit information, elements, everything that is being audited this year, the STS website has been updated with all of the congenital audit information. I've included a link there if you would like to go out and take a look and see all of the elements that are being audited. Also, for those of you that were selected for audit, if you have any questions related to the audit process or anything regarding the instructions or letter that you received from CRS, please contact CRS directly. Again, for any of those audit-related questions, just contact CRS directly. And I believe for those sites that were audited, just be sure to make sure you get all of your audit data to CRS by their deadlines. I believe the record data is due by July 1. So again, I believe, again, that date is around July 1st, but please be sure to check your CRS audit information letter for all those deadlines and ensure that you have your data submitted to CRS prior to or by that deadline date. Also, I just wanted to include this slide from our last call. Again, this is just the risk-adjusted benchmark report timeline in case you want to share this with anyone in your organization. Currently, just so everyone is aware, the harvest data has been sent to IQVIA from DCRI, so that data is in IQVIA hands, and they are busy populating the dashboards, building the reports. So that is in progress. We will begin user acceptance testing with our beta sites and surgeon leaders next month, sometime in June. So I would anticipate everything maybe mid to late June. We'll be doing some beta testing. Again, those are not firm deadline or timelines or dates, but again, we're just making, I'm just assuming, or just if everything continues to go along as planned, hopefully that'll be underway sometime around mid to late June. Beta testing, once that is complete, we will release all of those data to you all into production for all sites. So again, we are looking at a July timeframe for releasing that 2020 analysis data. And of course, just a friendly reminder that these dates are these timeframes. Timeline is dependent upon how everything goes in user acceptance testing, if making sure, everything within the data upload within the IQVIA platform, everything goes smoothly. As long as there are no issues, we'll continue to track towards that July release for the 2020 harvest data. AQO updates. As you all are aware, our AQO 2021 meeting, Advances in Quality Outcomes, our data managers meeting, will be virtual again this year. The dates for AQO this year will be October 12th through the 15th. Our congenital session will be held on Friday, October the 15th. Abstracts are now being accepted. STS sent out a call for abstracts. I've included a link to the abstract submission website here for you. And also, if you are new to the abstract world or you haven't submitted an abstract before, or if you'd like a quick review, suggest you go back and review our April 20th webinar for helpful tips on creating your abstract. Patty Toyer gave a wonderful presentation on creating an abstract, and an excellent review for you all, and especially for the newbies who have not yet submitted an abstract or you're new to it. Highly recommend you going back and reviewing that webinar on the 20th in Patty's presentation. I've included a link here to our database webinar page for ease and navigation. Also, just a reminder that the deadline for submissions of those abstracts is Friday, June 18th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So just be sure to get that actually 1 month from today. So be sure you note your timelines and get those abstracts in. We look forward to getting lots of abstracts this year for our congenital session. So also, just I'm sure everyone is aware, we are having free registration.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I apologize. Sorry. I lost my connection. I lost my audio connection. So I apologize. So again, sorry, everyone. Okay. So let's get back. I think I dropped right here on my AQO slide. So again, I apologize for that. I believe I had lost connection right here on my free registration for all data managers. Again, everyone, please just know to be eligible for that free registration, you must be listed as a contact on your site's participation agreement. If you're not sure if you are listed as a contact, you need to confirm, please email us at stsdb@sts.org, and we can let you know a list of current contacts that we have for you. If you know that either yourself or personnel that will be attending AQO or not as a data manager or not listed as a contact for your site, you will need to get them listed. And in order to do that, you would need to submit the participant contact form. Please know that anyone that you are adding as a contact for your site, that participant contact form should be submitted by your primary data and file contact. STS does need to verify those contacts that you are adding to your site. So again, please ensure that any of these contact forms are completed and submitted by your primary data and file contact. If you're not sure roles that should be assigned for these new people, I've also included a link to the database participant and platform roles as well. So if you have any questions about completing that participant contact form, please feel free to reach out to us. You can also contact Addie Dolan for assistance on completing these participant contact forms. And Addie can be reached at adolan, DOLAN, at sts.org. I should have put her email here on the slide, and I'll get that added prior to posting online. Just also know that the Congenital Planning Committee has met. We had our first meeting, I think it was last week. My days are beginning to run together. But we had our great first call for our CHSD Planning Committee for AQO. If you have any suggestions on topics that you would like to be covered at AQO, please feel free to email those suggestions to me directly. My email address is listed here. And also, just as a reminder, or just FYI, next year, we will be going back live and in person with our meetings. So we are very much looking forward to AQO 2022. We'll pick up where we left off. AQO 2022 will be held in Providence, Rhode Island. So definitely looking forward to getting back to live and in person and seeing you all in person, seeing your faces. Just miss seeing you all. So we are looking forward to having AQO 2022 live and in person again. Let's see here. That's all that I have from the STS side of things. Again, I apologize for my audio dropping out there. I'm going to turn things over to Chastity for her session on tips for coding complications. Chastity?
Thank you, Leanne. And I look forward to a fall spent, or I guess spending AQO during the fall on the East Coast. I think it'll be beautiful. So thank you for that. As Leanne said earlier, we received a lot of questions to the core group over the past 2 months, with the theme being related to coding complications. So I wanted to provide some tips and some scenarios. For those of you who submitted questions to the core group, you'll notice that I took the spirit or the theme of your question and didn't put in, the exact scenario. You'll be getting responses to your specific questions from Leanne shortly if you haven't already. But I just took the theme so everyone can receive the information and learn from it and take it back to their own programs while they're coding complications. So my first tip for you for coding complications is really to think of the complications as intraoperative or postoperative events. You're not here to ascribe blame to your surgeon or to the procedure or to your program. You're really describing both the intra and post-operative course of the patient. And I will admit that even when I first started out in the database, sometimes, you would think about a complication and say, oh gosh, I don't want to code this. This wasn't my surgeon's fault, or this wasn't the ICU's fault. It just happened. But that's exactly it. It just happened. It's an event that happened. And that's what we're describing. We're not saying, oh, surgeon, you did a bad job, or oh, ICU, you didn't take great care of this patient. We're saying this is an event that occurred in the post-op or intraoperative arena of this patient's course. I also would advise to know that every definition is different. So while kind of the time frame for coding our definitions is spelled out pretty clearly, I think you should keep your training manual open to understand that each of those definitions has nuances to them and kind of some extra tidbit information. So if something were to happen in the OR, let's say an arrhythmia while the bypass cannulas are in, we're not coding those. Same with cardiac arrest, whereas other complications are fair game, and we would code them in the OR even if the bypass cannulas were in. So I don't think that there is a way to ever code data within any database without having your data dictionary or your training manual constantly open. And so I think just refer to it all the time as you're reviewing your patient cases for complications. And then the timing of these complications. Most of them will start intraoperatively and go through the entire episode of care for most of the complications. But as I mentioned in the previous tip, every definition is a little bit different and has its own nuance. And so I always look for those exceptions in the training manual and review previous FAQs that were submitted by your data colleagues out there, because there's a lot to be gained and learned from those. And I will tell you, as a core group member, we spend a lot of time, sometimes an enormous amount of time on one question that you submit. We want to get it right. We want to make sure we understand all facets of what you're submitting, and that we're answering, specifically the question you have regarding your case, and then how to make it applicable to everybody out there. Okay, Leanne, next slide. So the timing of a complication, this becomes really important. So a scenario I gave is that a patient is admitted to your facility with a deep sternal wound infection following cardiac surgery at another facility. So this patient never was operated on at your facility, but they showed up at the door with this deep wound infection. Do you code a wound infection? The answer here is no. Your facility did not perform a cardiac surgery operation prior to that wound infection. So you don't have an operation to go back to and code the complication of a deep wound infection. If you do happen to operate on this wound, like for example, maybe you have to do a wound debridement or open up the sternum, anything that could go along with the care of a deep wound infection, this actually will be your diagnosis. The patient came in with this wound infection. So it's not a complication of that surgery. It's the diagnosis of that surgery. It's the reason, the principal reason that the patient had to go to the OR to have something done. And then depending on the timing of this wound infection, the operating hospital, so that hospital that actually did the cardiac surgery, may be the ones that have a wound infection to code, along with a readmission to your hospital. So it would be a great idea if you could go back and contact the operating hospital if that's something that you're aware of, if the patient was able to share that information with you, and call that data manager and say, hey, just so you know, we have your patient here. We had to do a cardiac reoperation. There was a readmission and it was a deep wound infection. And so depending on the timing, that operating hospital, original operating hospital, may have a complication or multiple complications to code. Next slide. Okay, so where to code the complications? We get quite a few questions about this. A patient experiences numerous complications during their episode of care, but also undergoes multiple cardiac surgery operations during this episode of care. So do I need to code the complications on every procedure that we operate on, or only one time? How do we best code the complications? So I think there's just some points of understanding or clarification that we can make here. So upon analysis, all complications will be attributed back to the index operation. So if you were to code, let's say, mechanical circulatory support after every surgery that you did, if the patient had numerous surgeries, it'll be attributed one time back to the index operation. If you choose to code the same complication after subsequent operations, that's okay, because locally you're able to slice and dice and utilize that data in whatever way you want to. But just so you know, from an STS perspective, they're not going to say, oh, this patient had 5 episodes of mechanical circulatory support or 5 cardiac arrests. You get the complication accounted to the index operation one time. Remember, and this came out a few years ago, and I think it is still a confusing point, do not code complications prior to the index operation. So think about the patient that comes in and let's say undergoes a lung biopsy, a thoracic procedure prior to their index operation. And after that lung biopsy, they experienced a cardiac arrest. Now, if you code that cardiac arrest following that thoracic surgery, then the patient goes on and actually has their cardiac surgery. Unfortunately, in the algorithms for how the analysis is done, that cardiac arrest that occurred prior to the index operation will be attributed back to the index operation. It doesn't matter the order of operations or the order that the complications occurred. Everything goes back to the index operation. So what you want to do is not code any complications prior to that index operation on those previous procedures. You say no to the complications, and where applicable, you can use those as preoperative factors for the index operation. So perhaps that cardiac arrest occurred within 24 hours prior to entering the OR for the index operation, and therefore you can use then that as a preoperative factor to capture that cardiac arrest. And again, I highlight complications only get counted once in the analysis, regardless of how many times you locally code it within your data. Next slide. All right, so complication to code or not to code. Following a cardiac operation and during the same admission, a patient undergoes a G-tube placement by the general surgery team and unfortunately experiences a cardiac arrest. So now back on your index cardiac operation, do I need to code the complication of a cardiac arrest? The answer is yes. While the arrest did not occur during the cardiac surgery or immediately following, the arrest is an event that did occur during the admission following that cardiac surgery. So again, when we think about the spirit of how we code the complications, we're not assigning blame to our program, to our hospital, to our surgeon. We're saying this patient sustained a cardiac arrest sometime following that cardiac surgery. So we absolutely need to code that complication. And that's exactly what my second point says. We're not assigning blame to your program, but just describing that post-cardiac surgery course. And I think if you explain your complications to your surgeons over and over and over for years on end using that language, they start to understand. You're just describing the post-surgery course. You're not saying you're a bad surgeon and this keeps happening. Next slide. Okay, so again, to code or not to code. Patient goes to the OR to undergo a VAD implantation. Do I code the complication of mechanical circulatory support? Well, so this depends, and it kind of builds upon the other scenarios I gave. You would code yes here if the patient had previously undergone an index cardiac operation during that same admission. So in the scenario where a patient undergoes a Norwood operation and 2 days later they have a cardiac arrest and need to have a VAD placed. So in that case, the patient now would have post-op mechanical circulatory support after that index operation. This is also true if a patient were to be readmitted within 30 days of a previous index operation. But the answer would be no to that mechanical circulatory support if the patient, let's say, they never underwent an index operation, they came in from home and they have a new onset cardiomyopathy and they need to go to the OR for a VAD to wait for their heart transplant. We're not going to then code post-op mechanical circulatory support. Clearly, the patient went to the OR to have the VAD placed. That was the whole reason that they went to the OR. So it's not a complication of a VAD procedure that you had mechanical circulatory support. It was the whole intent of the procedure. And there's not a previous index operation to attribute the complication of mechanical circulatory support to. So if that makes sense, I know that this can be a little bit confusing, but I'm hoping that that makes sense to you. And I think that might be my last slide. So at the end, when we open it up for questions, very happy to, continue to address some complication things, or please continue to submit your questions to the core group. We enjoy bantering back and forth and figuring out the best answers to your questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Chastity. That was an excellent presentation. Appreciate it so very much. Next, we're going to turn things over to Joe for our IQVIA portion. Joe?
Great. Thanks so much, Leanne and Chastity. Good afternoon, everyone. I just have some items to cover for upcoming releases. We don't have a date for the upcoming release yet, but just for your information, these are some items that are currently under review. Starting with items related to the primary procedure report, the mismatch report, rather, the STS 6239, we have received reports from some sites that they're uploading corrections to address their mismatches, but those changes are not being reflected when they rerun the report after submitting. So as of now, we are looking in just to see what might be causing that. And then the next two are kind of go together, STS 6325 and 6337. For both of these, we're investigating reports that the exception rules are not being properly applied to the primary procedure logic. And we will be making any necessary updates to bring those in line. All right, next slide. All right, and the following have to do with the missing variable report. STS 6211, the MVR is showing the prothrombin complex concentrate 4 dose 3 as missing in the report, even when the field is not active on the case form. So that will be looked into and corrected. STS 6343, we are looking to update the MVR so that it recognizes the missing selection for mortality status at database discharge as a missing variable, in addition to the current functionality, which only flags it as missing if no response is selected. STS 6322, we have received a report from a site that they're seeing some items on their MVR which were not present when they had previously run that report. And so we're looking into why that's happening, and we are looking to make any updates necessary to correct that. STS 6427, the on-demand version variable will be updated so that it's no longer flagged as missing on your MVR. And finally, STS 6340, there is a 2 in brackets that is appearing that should not be for the MT365 stat variable, and that will be corrected and removed. And I believe that's everything I had. Just our usual reminders. If you haven't heard back on something you reported, we are looking into it. But if you'd like an update, feel free to reach out and we can look into that for you.
Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, next, these are our ending slides, are our standard slides that you all are very familiar with. Again, our IQVIA support plan. Always just please be sure to include that participant ID number with your communications with STS and IQVIA. We greatly appreciate it. Next, again, our list of resources that are available to you. Again, we do encourage you to make use of this STS National Database Feedback Form that is posted out on the STS website. We encourage you to use that for any and all feedback, positive, negative. Please, again, reach out to us. Also, please know that I am also available if you need to talk about anything. If you have any concerns you'd like to raise, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. You can, speaking of, here is my direct contact information, my direct line, and my email address. Again, I encourage you to reach out to me. I know some of you have. We've had great discussions. And of course, you know, I welcome all of your feedback and we'll take that back to the team. Our goal is to, you know, continue to improve this transition process and improve this platform, work together to enhance it and give this platform and support exactly what you all are needing. So again, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and bring back your concerns to me so I can share this with the team and continue to make improvements and help you all out in the best way possible. If you have any type of database operational questions, again, if you have questions regarding the contacts listed for your site, since AQO is coming up, reach out to us at stsdb@sts.org for a list of those contacts associated with your site. If you have questions regarding participation agreements, if you are interested in adding the anesthesia module, if you questions about payments, any type of database operational question, again, just reach out to us at stsdb at sts.org. If you're not sure where to send your communication, just reach out to me and I'll be sure to get you in touch with the correct people. Let's see here. Be sure to mark your calendars for our next upcoming webinars. Our next user group call is scheduled for June 1st at 12 p.m. Central Time. And our next monthly webinar is scheduled for June 15th at 12 p.m. Central Time. As you all are aware, these monthly webinars are an opportunity to provide some education to the data manager community. If you have any suggestions for any types of data, for types of education that you would like to see, any type of sessions, maybe you'd like to have a presentation by a surgeon leader, anything, just please feel free to send those suggestions to me directly, ljones@sts.org, and we can work to get that education provided to you in these monthly webinars. So we are looking for topics for you all. So please feel free to share your suggestions with us. With that, that's all that I have from the STS side for today. We'll turn things over to you all for your questions. Again, I believe the raise hand function is utilized if you is live if you'd like to access or use that function. Again, if not, just please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A. Let's see here. We have a couple of questions coming in. Let's go ahead and tackle our first one. Our first question from Maggie: who can be provided access to the IQVIA reporting platform? What is the process to have access provided? So Maggie, there is a, actually, let me get back to this link. Let me go back to this slide here regarding AQO. I included, sorry for the angry scrolling, guys, I apologize. So if you need to get someone access to the IQVIA platform, they have to be listed as a contact on your STS participation agreement. So the first step would be completing the participant contact form for that person to get them added. I would also use the database participant platform rules document. This is a link to the document out on the STS website that does give you a description of the roles and then the related access that's available within the platform. So if your persons at your site do not have access, again, just complete the participant contact form, get them added as a contact. And once they're added as a contact, then they are able to get access to the IQVIA platform. Let's see here. And Heather, looks like Heather has a question for STS or for IQVIA regarding 6239, are the coding changes that are uploaded to IQVIA not being reflected on the actual cases? So therefore, the prime proc report doesn't show the updates. In other words, are the uploaded coding changes updating the cases in the IQVIA platform?
Hi, this is Melanie. I'll take that.
Thanks, Mom.
Hi, Heather. No problem, Leanne. So the root cause is the updates on specific records. And Heather, I know we've been going back and forth on a couple of these items. So in this case, the updates are not occurring at the uploader side. It's basically not recognizing those changes. And so therefore, it's not doing the downstream updates. So that's what we are working on getting resolved.
Okay, let's see here. All right, our next question from Maggie. How is the access provided? Only one of my surgeons has received information to allow him to sign into IQVIA. So I know initially all of the surgeons were giving usernames and passwords to access the platform. That email may have been maybe buried somewhere in their email. If they do require access, please have them email us at stsdb@sts.org, and we can get that access to your surgeons with the need for the platform. Again, just Maggie, email us at stsdb@sts.org, and please include that participant ID and the surgeons that are requiring that need access. Our next question, Heather says, thank you, Melanie. Do you know if it is all the codes or some particular category?
Honestly, Heather, I got that information as of this morning, so I don't have that specific, but I will find out from the team and I'll respond back to you.
All right. My mouse is going crazy here. I apologize. I'm just going to get back to the list of those issues for the upcoming release. All right. I do not see anyone's hand raised or any additional questions. I don't know. Kelly, it looks like Melanie Kelly is adding a question.
No, Kelly, no need to resubmit. I'm just, if you had it, then I would have just did a quick check. So we'll get back to you. I'm pinging the team right now, but we'll get you further information.
Okay. Thank you, Melanie. And thank you, Kelly. Let's see here. While we're waiting for any additional questions to come in, I don't know, while we have Dr. Meyer, Dr. Jacobs on the line, I believe they're still on. If you had anything you wanted to update or share with the group since our last call.
No, I don't think so. Okay. I think I announced last time that Dr. Subramanian is going to be taking the leadership of the Congenital Database Task Force. I'm passing the baton. So, but I'll still be, on this call and on the core group call and whatever else Dr. Subramanian would want me to do. So,
this is Jeff. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank John for everything he's done in the last few years. It's probably not the usual scenario where somebody who's already served as president of the STS decides to come back and take on the challenge of leading the Congenital Heart Surgery Database Task Force. So I think we were all pretty lucky that a past STS president decided to come back and help us navigate some challenging waters. So for everybody on this call and everybody on the task force, I wanted to say thank you to John.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Meyer. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you directly since I came on board here at STS. So you have been extremely generous and patient, and I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done. So thank you.
Well, thanks very much.
And you're not getting rid of us, so.
Yeah, you're not rid of me either.
I'm glad. I do not see any additional questions coming in. So it looks like we may end a little bit early today. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Thank you, Chastity, for an excellent presentation on complications. That was phenomenal. We appreciate you taking the time and putting those slides together and sharing that information with us. Thank you to all of my IQVIA colleagues and STS colleagues. I apologize for the audio issues. I joined via phone, so I wouldn't have audio issues, and then my phone decided to drop. So I apologize. If anyone has any questions after this webinar, please feel free to reach out to me directly. So with that, I want to wish you all a great rest of the week, and I look forward to chatting with you next time. I hope you guys all have a great week, and thank you everyone for helping me today.
Very nice job, Leanne, and great presentation, both you and Chastity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you guys all have a great week.